Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back, and we are doing something completely different today to the extent that Alexa's not even here. For anybody who's been following along with us throughout all of this crazy time of no Survivor, we have just been trying to turn out anything and everything we can. Alexa's been doing the Australian Survivor Series with McKenna Feeney. We did a China rewatch. We've been doing the Amazing Race, all of that. Well, today I am bringing in another one of our patrons, John Millsip. We're going to be talking about the Challenge Double Agents episode 0 and 1, because I did watch episode 0, and this is how much I know about the challenge. I was watching episode 0 going, oh, good, I found a stream to episode 1. Well, guess what? It had nothing to do with the actual thing. It was just an intro to all the characters. But I did watch all of it. We're going to be breaking it down. We have Jay and Natalie both on this season, so that's something to look forward to, something to discuss. But, John, you are definitely going to be the expert here, and I'm going to be the casual. I love it. Thanks for coming on. What do you got?
Well, first off, I'm super happy to be here, Phil, talking about the challenge, which was a reality show I wasn't really interested in at first, but once I started watching it, I mean, it's quickly becoming second to only Survivor for me when it comes to reality TV. It's a very entertaining show. It's a show that constantly is evolving and becoming different with every season. And quite frankly, it's one of the best ones we have on TV right now.
I almost feel like watching this episode, and this was my first intro to the challenge. I know before we went live, I was telling John, I think I watched this when I was about 8 years old, and it was Road Rules versus the Real World, which, by the way, I thought was awesome back then, and then I just didn't realize it was still a show. And from what I understand, it's not even really the same show at this point. It's something completely different. But when I was watching this, all I could think to myself was, this is like the more hip version of Survivor in terms of obviously it's an MTV show, and MTV shows are always going for like a different demographic, obviously, than CBS is going for, which makes sense. But when I was watching it, I was like, okay, you cut out like kind of the corny editing and the things like that, where it's like trying to be like all spy-y. And I love like when TJ Levine's face just like becomes like a robot face. And I'm like, all right, this is a little excessive. But when you cut all of that stuff out and you just get down to like the people they put on the show, I feel like it's a much younger cast. I feel like it's a lot more of like a fun cast. All they're doing is drinking and kind of partying. And it looks like people are going to be hooking up. And like, that's the whole point of it. Now, granted, as somebody who's never watched it, I don't know, but it does feel like a more hip version of Survivor. It's the same thing. It's a bunch of people competing in challenges, trying to be the last one remaining. It seems, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it's one man and one woman is going to win the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So the men and women aren't competing against each other, which also makes it easier for them to hook up because you're not actually going against your competition. But it just feels like it's more of like the badass version of Survivor. Like Survivor, we're going to go starve for 39 days, but this is, we're going to drink and do all this stuff and have a good time. And then we're going to just do these really vicious, obnoxious challenges where it looks like somebody's throwing up blood or something in a future episode. Challenges that Survivor doesn't want to do because they want it to be more about the strategy than people like almost dying on there. You know, that's what I got about that. But John, am I wrong or am I correct?
No, I mean, that's a really good way to sum it up. It's a very different reality show because they are drinking, they are partying. They can even call loved ones throughout the series. So, like, they have connections to the outside world, so it's not like they're being isolated from the world, except for this season, where they are a little isolated because of COVID. They're not going to be going out to the nightclubs and stuff and drinking as much. So we saw last night, they have their little, like, dome with a bar in it where they're going to be drinking instead. But overall, like, yeah, it's similar to Survivor. The strategy's really ramped up over the seasons. The first season I watched was Fresh Meat 2, which was season 19. I didn't think there was a lot of strategy, but as I've watched more of the challenge, it's become really clear that there is a lot of strategy that goes into this, trying to figure out who you eliminate early, who you eliminate late, and who you try to run the final with.
Yeah, because so for anybody who, I mean, and obviously everybody who's listening to this is like, all right, Phil, grow up. But when you get to the final, it's like what, the top 5 men, top 5 women, they're competing against each other, and it's literally like the winner. Like there's no jury system, nothing like that. It's just you have to win that challenge. If you win the money.
Yeah. We don't know what the breakup of the prize pool is, so we know it's a $1 million prize pool. Last season it was winner takes all, 500,000 for the male, 500,000 for the female. Previous seasons it breaks up differently. So it's like there have been one of the other $1 million pools was season 30, which was 15,000 for third, $35,000 for second, and then first got $450,000. So we don't know what the prize breakup's going to be. We don't know how many people are going to run in the final challenge. But what we do know is this final challenge is going to be grueling as all else, because they always are.
Well, and so with the gold skulls coming into this, and he's saying that there's only 10 people are going to be allowed to run in his final. It seems like it's a max of 10, though. It seems like it can go down from 10, because he did say to Natalie, you have a gold skull, which allows you to race in this, but that does not mean you're safe. So I'm assuming she'll have multiple opportunities to lose. And if she were to lose, I don't know if the gold skull will go back into it or if it'll just be completely eliminated. But, the one thing I will say about like a show like The Challenge, and kind of what's turned me off from shows like this in the past, and the reason why I always stick with Survivor, is because the rules are a little arbitrary and because things are a little random and it's not the same thing every time. I feel like if you're going to play a game, the reason why there's 9 million different versions of Monopoly is because Monopoly has a sound set of rules. And yeah, there's little spins on it, $500 on free parking or the auction style or whatever you want to do. There's different spins on it, but at the end of the day, it's all the same basic game. And that's kind of what Survivor is to me. Whereas this kind of feels like when Jay played last time, there might have been 4 people who won, and it looks like there's been teams who have won before. And it looks like, it's kind of like a different thing every time. That's fine with me. This is the first time I'm watching it, but that's what's kind of turned me off in the past, is that TJ, and I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, so I'm not even going to bother, but the handler, I will call him just to make it easier on myself. The handler doesn't seem like he really spells it out for everybody. And it seems like part of the game is that a lot of it is hidden in darkness, and that you're trying to figure it out kind of as you go, which is cool. It leads to good moments like we had at the end where Natalie's left with the decision between CT and Wes. But also for a new viewer, I'm like, okay, but what's the rule? What's the rule? And when you have so many questions and you're like, I wish I just had a rule book in front of me so I could just say, oh, this would be the best move because of this. That's one thing that turns me off, but maybe I'll just completely buy into it once it actually starts getting going.
Yeah, I mean, it is one interesting thing, because going into this like 36 season history of the challenge, no 2 seasons are exactly the same. They've run them individually, they've run them as pairs, they've run them as teams. They've run them as individuals working in pairs and teams. Like, the structure of the challenge is basically the same. You have to go in, you have to not get eliminated through these elimination challenges and win the final. But the strategic aspect of the game is different depending on the structure of the specific season. And they don't tend to tell you what's going on until you do get a little further into it. Because they do like springing those things on the contestants. They're like, hey, you thought you know what was going on? You don't. Try to figure it out.
And I feel like that probably works a little bit better in this because they have so many returning players, and it seems like this is just a thing they do every year on the challenge, every season of the challenge. There are repeat players. And what is it? CT is in his 18th season. I think Wes is in his 14th or 15th season. So there's people who are out there a lot, and they'll get to know each other and all of that. Does this actually make it boring towards the rookies, or does it kind of balance itself out and you kind of catch on? Or is it just kind of like, okay, this is our star, keep bringing them back, keep bringing them back, keep bringing them back, keep bringing them back, because that's where our money's at. And then hopefully 1 or 2 rookies lands.
So one of the awkward things about the challenge is the rookies are generally targeted first. You're a rookie. You haven't paid your dues. You're going to have to prove yourself here. Inevitably, like, 1 rookie usually makes the final a year, if they're good enough. And then you do hit those like gold characters. Because the interesting thing about the casting for the challenge is you have to be on one of these other reality shows first, right? They're not bringing in random people. They have twice with the fresh meat seasons. But other than that, like these are characters you already kind of know, and you're seeing them interact with each other because of it. And yeah, I mean, we're looking at a season with 20 veterans on it and 10 rookies, which is a lot more rookies than usual because last season only had 5 rookies.
Okay.
And then being in partners makes it so that the rookies might not get targeted early. But yeah, I mean, we get these great character rookies, and sometimes they just get burned really early because they're seen as an easy elimination, someone to bump out of the way easy early on, especially in a season like this season where you have to win an elimination to make the final.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, because as I'm watching this, I'm saying to myself, like, does it ever get stale in terms of, oh gosh, here we go, they're going out for the 18th time? Like, do people get tired of watching CT? Do they get tired of watching Wes? Do they get tired of watching Ashley? Like, do they get tired of watching Cam and Leroy? Like, are these people that everybody get tired of? Or is it just like, great, it's almost like the NFL, good, they're back for another season. Let's have it happen. Who's going to win? I can't wait to see how it goes down.
They're coming back because they are good TV. Like, CT is easily one of my favorite challenge competitors, and he's played in 18 seasons. I can watch him throughout the entire thing. And, I mean, also totally different person this year. He said in episode 0 when he was recapping, right, like, the last couple of seasons he's competed, he was in dad bod mode. And he's really bulked back up for this season. So it should be interesting to see what he does this season, despite being someone who has won the challenge twice, despite someone who is on his 18th season, who got eliminated by Jay last season.
Mm-hmm. He got eliminated by Jay last season. And Jay, as you were saying with the rookies, Jay was one of the few rookies, and he competed in 3 of the first 5 challenges, I believe. Yeah. And he got eliminated because he got a concussion, right?
Oh, yeah, he got leveled by Rogan in season 35 and was just like, could not compete anymore.
Nice. I love that. Well, and that's what I was going to say is it's kind of funny, like, not that Jay was a challenge beast by any means on Survivor, and we'll get into the Survivor, and Natalie, who was it? They totally butchered it. Ashley called Natalie the queen of Survivor, and I said, Ashley, I hope you go home, because if you're going to be that ignorant, you don't deserve to play the game. Yeah. That's just a terrible, terrible statement. That's just wrong. There are 2 queens before Natalie, and there's probably about 100 queens before Natalie, as far as I'm concerned. But it's funny to me, like, Jay doesn't actually seem... I've hung out with Jay, I've met Jay, I've done all those things. Mm-hmm. Jay seems like the type of person, yeah, we're going to party, we're going to do this. Like, he's a fun guy, but he doesn't seem like he's the type of personality for this show. And he's not really the challenge competitor for this show that he fits a little bit better on Survivor, in my estimation, because these guys are way bigger, or their personalities are a little bit more MTV. And I don't really know how else to put that, but Jay has a personality that, like, my mom and dad are like, I love Jay. Like, I can get behind Jay. I can do that. My mom and dad aren't going to sit here and watch this and be like, man, I just can't wait to see what happens with Cam. I need to watch Cam. And honestly, my mom and dad don't really care about Natalie, which is why, like, when she came back for Winners at War, they were like kind of happy she went home. But obviously my mom and dad are not the example. The example is, older people or whatever. But again, that's not what MTV's audience is. But Jay, to me, feels more like Natalie feels like she could just kill it on the challenge, and like, this is her thing. And maybe it's because I saw more of her here, but Jay to me feels like more of like a Survivor player, a CBS reality star, an ABC reality star. He doesn't feel like an MTV reality star to me, the way that some of these people, like Leo, I think he's a perfect rookie. Like, I think he fits MTV 100%. I'm looking at, who else do I have here? Joseph is kind of funny to me, but I don't really understand what he's doing. I'm drawing blank on a lot of their faces, but like Fessy to me, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. He comes over to MTV. Jay just doesn't really do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little weird seeing someone like Jay, and like, Survivor players aren't transferring over to the challenge. Like, Jay was the first one, so it was kind of like what's he going to do? After seeing him on season 35, no, Jay fits him perfectly with the challenge crowd. Okay. Yeah, he does. He has that bravado about him that's really important in the challenge. He's proven himself. I mean, he won 2 eliminations. He won an elimination against one of the best challenge players ever to compete. Sure, he wasn't in the best shape at the time, but like, Jay definitely goes out there to win, and he can prove himself in these challenges.
Good. I like to hear that. It's to me, it's kind of like when I try to think of like other instances, but I can't. But there's these just certain times where like something just doesn't translate. And I wasn't sure if Jay was going to work, because we really don't hear much from Jay in this episode. And maybe that's just because, it is what it is. And this episode was really based around Cam and CT and Ashley and Wes, and Kyle got his digs in there, and then Leo body slamming people. It seemed like it was based more around that. And Jay was kind of on the outside, and everybody was looking at Natalie like, holy crap, this lady can beat the crap out of me, because Natalie can beat the crap out of anybody. When she was squatting, I think she was squatting like 300, 400 pounds. It's like, what are you doing? Like, how's your back not breaking? But okay, that all makes sense to me. I get it. I don't know where we want to start with this, or where we want to kind of get into it now that I've had it drawn out to me. But I don't know if there's a particular place to start. If we should just start from the top and work our way to the end and see if we think Natalie made the right decision or not. But I needed a little intro, and maybe we have some Survivor fans who are here watching, and this is the first time they're watching the challenge too, and they're a little confused. So you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best things to talk about, I mean, we have, from my opinion, there are like the 4 big pivotal things with the challenge. You have the cast, how is it structured? You have the season structure. Again, this year we're running in pairs, but that's also a little up in the air, but we'll get to that a little later. The eliminations are always different. Who's nominating who's doing the voting, who's doing the putting someone into the challenge, what the elimination arena is called, and then what the prize is. So we've talked about the prize. The cast, like I said, 20 veterans, 10 rookies. Interesting to note, 14 of these veterans played on last season.
Oh, okay.
So 14 of them have played with each other previously. And then part of that cast relationship, we're also looking at the amount of people on this cast who have hooked up with each other as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a lot. And it's a lot of like Teresa has been with Wes and with Leroy.
Okay.
And then, of course, Leroy's with Cam now. So there's just a ton of different previous relationships. And like some of these people have completed on like Battle of the Exes with each other. And I tried to make like a relationship web for the season, but it just became too redundant because of how many relationships there are within the cast.
I get that. Yeah, it's too much. All right. Well, let's go to the beginning then, and we get the, they all go and they have to compete in their first challenge, and their first challenge is to they have to run up there, get this little like bomb looking thing, whatever it is, and figure out the color code and get it down. Everybody talks about like Lolo Jones and how fast she went up the mountain. She didn't go up that much faster than everybody else. And yes, I'm not saying that Lolo Jones isn't insanely fast. She's one of the fastest women of all time, like literally in the history of the world. She's one of the fastest people to ever run. But she wasn't like, oh my God, like they did the slow motion shot. And then I think it was Devin with like, now we understand. And I was like, you could have just also watched like the Olympics and then you would have really understood, because Lolo's also like 5 years past her prime now. And when she was in her prime, she's one of the most ridiculous athletes in the world. But, so we have this challenge. Anissa, this is somebody again to me. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, no, must like body shame or anything like that. But she doesn't look like somebody who would kill in this show. And now this is her 8th season, and here she comes out and dominates this first challenge. What is it about Anissa that I'm not seeing as the first time I'm watching this? Because it seems like everybody is coming off like some Project Runway, and then here's Anissa like, I'm just gonna win the game because that's what I do, and I've made it to finals before. So
Anissa, this is actually Anissa's 14th challenge.
Oh my God!
So she is one of these like crazy vets who's been on here a lot. She actually doesn't make the final
ever.
Like, she always gets cut before the final.
Okay.
Because the finals, no matter what the season structure is, the finals almost always run in pairs. And people don't want to be paired with Anissa. Because she lacks, it's just like what Fessy was saying. After the challenge, Anissa lacks endurance. And one of the things with the challenge is you kind of need like the whole package. You need the endurance, you need the strength, and you need the brains, because there are puzzles on this challenge, and like they're not as complicated as like Survivor puzzles, but they are some puzzles that just stump people because they're doing so much physical exertion before they get to the puzzle. And Anissa is fine with strength and fine with puzzles, but she lacks that endurance, and the final challenge is very much endurance based. So that's why she usually gets cut. But I was completely shocked to see Anissa win this first challenge.
I mean, and not only did she win it, like it seemed like she was the one with the best plan going into it. And like, again, like when I'm looking at, I guess it was CT with his dad bod going into last season, you're like, well, of course he's going to get knocked out relatively early there, and he's got to get back into whatever type of shape. And I mean, you have an Olympic athlete, you have Natalie Anderson, who's like a CrossFit queen. I don't know what a lot of these other prettier girls, and I'll use air quotes on this, but like your Big T's and your I'm trying to think, Gabby, they're there more for like, we're really good looking. I don't know what their physical prowess is, but man, Anissa like killed that challenge. And then not only that, she beat the guy by a minute. Now, granted, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that the guys were really beating the crap out of each other, and it took a little bit longer just for them to get going. But still, she beats the guy by a minute and gets up there. And like, I mean, she kills this. Now, I thought that this was going to get her a little bit more power than it actually did end up getting her. Obviously, being a double agent is cool, but I thought it was going to get her a little bit further along and maybe help her with a skull or something. But then again, I don't really know much about the show. But I was impressed with this, and I'm impressed. I was not expecting Anissa to be somebody to come out and beat these, even though they're rookies. But then some of these other experts, the Ashleys and the I'm trying to think who else is in there. But jump in whenever you remember somebody, because I obviously don't yet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do have like all of these challenge vets that are running with her, right? Like the Ashleys, the Cams, the Nicoles. Like these are people who have gotten to the finals, who have won finals. And Anissa is 14th challenge. She's past her prime at this point, in my opinion. When she wasn't making finals earlier in the challenge, you kind of thought, okay, is she ever going to make a final? But coming out strong like this is really promising for Anissa. And we'll see if it has long-term gains for her or not.
And so how do we think it works for her? Because I don't know the dynamic. Her picking Fessy. Obviously, Fessy didn't want to be teamed up with her. He even said that he didn't want to be teamed up with her. He wins the first thing and then ends up getting picked by her, which I was kind of weird that like she could kind of pick him. I think it would have been more interesting if I do the double agent thing, but if they would have picked or just said, this is your first pair, this is what you're doing. But what do we think about Anissa picking Fessy?
Well, the really interesting thing about Fessy made the final last year as a rookie, which was impressive enough. But he really lacked the stamina to finish the final. So it's really funny that he's like making these remarks about Anissa not having the endurance, because he didn't really either last year. I don't know what he's done in the off season to make it better, but it's interesting. But with what happens later in the episode, it could completely blow the entire game up.
Yeah, it really could. And so I kind of I kind of think it's an interesting thing. I also love the idea of, okay, now just pick somebody. I think that's a great idea. I think it's hilarious. I think it worked out really well. I love the whole thing about CT not wanting to go with Cam, and then that totally blew up his entire game right off the bat. But just a quick run through of the pairs so that everybody knows what we're working with here. And yes, I wrote this down because there's no way I remember all this. Yeah. Anissa and Fessy, Nany and Kyle, Tori and Corey. Love that. That's easy. Devin and Nicole, Teresa and Jay, Darrell and Amber B, Wes and Natalie, Leo and Gabby, Josh and I can't read my own handwriting. Is that
Cam? It's Cam.
Oh, that's Cam. What am I doing? I wrote K-A-R. Leroy and Casey, Ashley and CT, Big T and Joseph, Lolo and Nam, Amber M and Nelson, Michi and Liv. So when I'm looking at this, I don't know what really excels in the game, but I do know that doing something like what it seemed like the move that Leroy and Casey and Cam and Josh made was a really smart one. Split each other up, give yourselves a little bit more of a chance to win it. Since you're kind of together anyway, make that work for you rather than just teaming up together. And it seems like what CT did was about the most wrong thing you could do. And I don't know how you feel about it, but why, if you're both winners, why would you team up with each other? I feel like that instantly puts a target on your back, no matter if there's 100 rookies or 0 rookies.
Because in the end, the challenge is about winning challenges still. And if you think you're running in pairs the entire time, you want the strongest competitor with you.
True.
So having two people who have won the challenge twice on a team, that's terrifying. Because there's a downside to it, especially in a season where we're dealing with gold skulls, where if everyone gangs up on them, throws them in elimination, they could just win the first elimination. Right? And then they just have their ticket punched to the finale. And then as long as they don't lose an elimination from there, they're just golden.
Yeah, so it is one of those things where even though you're trying to keep a target off your back, if you just think, hey, I can beat every single one of these other people, it doesn't matter. I'm stronger than all 14 of these other people at every single thing, then just do it and just try to beat them and win it. So interesting. I like that. It obviously doesn't work for them because Ashley ends up losing to Natalie because Natalie's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
But kind of get back. We're watching them do their little thing. Anybody stand out to you because you've watched this before as people that like look like they're primed here? Because I have my own takes, but then again, I've never watched.
Honestly, with the mentality of the house switching to not focusing on rookies and focusing on people who have won before, it completely throws the game, anything we know about the game out the window. Like, these are people who usually I would say, yeah, the rookies are done for. They're going to get it out. We'll look for like that one rookie that's sliding by. Someone like Nam, I think, is going to do really well. He seems very likable, and he's an incredible athlete. And the fact that he's paired with Lolo is insane. The fact that no one went for Lolo when picking pairs, again, goes to show that bias towards rookies. Despite the fact that Lolo has competed in Chance vs. Stars. So she's done the challenge, but it's not officially the challenge.
Okay.
But other than that, like, you have these people who've done well previously. You have the Big Brother players who there are 4 of them on this season, and they're all working together and all spread throughout different partnerships. So that's a big thing because it's essentially 8 votes.
Mm-hmm. And that is again, what? That's like, Amber. That's Amber B, Casey, Josh, and who?
Fessy.
And Fessy. Okay, that's right. Yeah. Fessy was Big Brother too. Okay.
And then Fessy and Josh are also really close with Corey and Nelson. And Corey and Nelson are an inseparable pair. Corey will never betray Nelson after Nelson literally sacrificed himself for Corey to get to the final last season.
Gotcha. So what is it then what do you think it is that made them all stand out with Natalie? Because in my opinion, and maybe it's because I ran track and cross country and have been around that my entire life, but in my opinion, if I see Lolo Jones, I'm going to do everything I can to be with Lolo Jones. It seemed like everybody on the challenge, though, was way more into Natalie. And is it because she won Survivor and Survivor is kind of up here? Or is it just that they look at her and they're like, this girl literally could bench press me and I'm Nam and that doesn't matter? Like, what do you think it is?
I think it's the Survivor aspect of it. I think it's the fact that she's played a social strategic game before. So she's not just bringing the challenge performance. You also know she has the strategic chops to measure up in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is that how they kind of view Jay the first time or not really?
Not really, because Jay's a really tiny, scrawny guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
So he seemed like the opinion of Jay last season was he's the weakest rookie. We can take him out first. Because the other male rookie was Fessy.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Okay.
And Swaggy C. So, like, Jay seems like the least athletic of them, so they thought he was the one they could get rid of. And they were wrong. 2 people paid the price because of that.
Yeah, Jay's got the weak boy strength, which is what I like to describe myself as having too, because it's one of those things where everybody just assumes you stink at everything, but then you have to have a better pain tolerance because you got your butt kicked a lot more often than everybody else. So That's it. But yeah, Jay teams up with Teresa. They look like a small pair. Am I wrong on that, or am I right on that?
They're smaller, but like Teresa's also done. How many?
Love you flipping through the pages. I like to hear that.
Teresa's done 7 challenges.
Okay.
And on her rookie season was when she hooked up with Wes. And that is how Wes plays. Wes, we saw it in this episode. Wes goes for the rookies. He talks to the rookies. That's how Wes operates. He knows that if he gets the rookies on his side, even though they're going to be the people who are first targeted, he's already flipping the house because no one wants to talk to the rookies.
Yeah. That's a great move. And somebody says that, I forget who it was, but they're like, that's his game. It might have even been Jay who said that's his game. I like Wes. I really do. And I was kind of happy like that Wes doesn't go here. What do we think is going to happen though? And I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here because I do want to talk about like the breakdown of everything, but let's talk about this ending because we've talked a lot about Wes and CT, and Ashley loses to Natalie. Natalie wins. Also the fire being on top of it. That is totally just for TV. That doesn't actually do anything. I just want everybody to know that. But they're doing that. Natalie wins. There was a really good challenge. Looked really hard. I absolutely despise when TV shows cut away in the middle of a challenge. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's stupid. Just finish the challenge. It's the one thing Survivor has always done well. There was that show that Sylvester Stallone did called Strong or Stronger or something like that. Every time they did a challenge, they would cut away, and then right when they came back from commercial, the first minute back from the commercial was the challenge that we already watched. It's stupid. It doesn't create drama. It takes away drama. It makes me want to just be like, screw it, I'll go watch something else, and I'll look it up on Wikipedia later. All that being said, Natalie kicks ass, as you would expect. She's got so much core strength. She's got so much upper and lower body strength. She's an absolute beast, although she is not the queen of Survivor. But she wins. Ashley goes home, and now Natalie is left with a decision. You can either stick with Wes You can go with CT, or you can steal somebody else from up there in the rafters, as long as it's not one of the double agents. Do we think that whoever she ends up not taking or taking, their partner is going to go home? Or is that person just going to kind of be isolated? Like, what CT and Wes lose here? Like, they are both sent into the crater to have to duel it out, but they don't seem punished for it. So what is actually going to end up happening with CT and Wes, do you think, here?
Honestly, I have no idea. Because until that point, we were like, it's pairs. But TJ very clearly laid out it's in a woman's elimination, so CT is not eliminated. Mm-hmm. Does he like solo compete for now? Does he automatically go into the crater in the next episode? Mm-hmm. There's so many different options as to what can happen. Maybe he joins a pair and becomes a trio. I don't know. Honestly, we're just gonna have to wait till next week to figure out what CT's fate is. But I'm pretty positive he's not going home.
That's what I'm thinking too. So that's why I'm like, okay, what was the point? Like, it seems like, why did they choose the women, first of all? Why was it a woman who had to go home first? And then if it can't be one person at a time, like, it's got to be like 2 people a week or something like that, or whatever it is. Natalie gets the gold skull, and now what's going to happen with CT and Wes? And what do you think Natalie's best move would be here? Is her best move to stick with Wes? Is it to jump to CT? Or is it to pick somebody up there who's just non-threatening and be like, leave me alone?
It's really difficult in this situation because you've seen the house. The house is definitely against previous winners. Mm-hmm. So that paints the target on CT, on Wes, on Darrell. Mm-hmm. So you don't really want to be with them. Switching to CT, I think, is the wrong choice here because CT is clearly a target. Sticking with Wes also could leave you as a target. So switching does make a lot of sense. I also think it makes a lot of sense from a strategic standpoint because, yes, you're abandoning Wes, but you're also spreading out your alliance with Wes. Just the way that Josh and Casey and Leroy and Cam switched partners to spread out their numbers. Mm-hmm. It would be kind of the same thing at this point. And like that's just adding to the strategic game in the challenge this season is there are going to be strategic times where it's not a matter of switching to a stronger partner, but switching to a stronger social partner to get yourself in better so you're not always going into elimination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my initial instinct was she should stick with Wes. And my reason was kind of what you said earlier, where if you're just stronger, you're just going to keep winning. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are really strong guys there, but is she really going to go with Nam? Is it Nam or Nam? I'm not 100% sure because I forget how it was pronounced. But either way, if you go with him, he's inexperienced. Mm-hmm. And so you don't really know what's going to end up happening there. He was one of the last people picked, which means maybe his social game isn't that good. So I don't know if you would go that route. You can't do double agents, so you can't take Fessy. You're not going to go with Jay because then that's putting a target on both of your backs as you're the survivor duo. And you don't want to go with CT because clearly CT is on some sort of outs, and that's just a bad move. So what I was thinking was you stick with Wes, and now your strength is in the fact that you're both strong as hell. That when the two of you go up against anybody, you're probably going to win. Natalie just proved herself immediately. What woman is going to want to go up against Natalie right now? Like, there is no woman, maybe some of the rookies, maybe Lolo's like, I'll take down, you know, I'll take her down. I can do it. But if you've been playing this before, like if you're Cam, you don't want to go up against Natalie. That's awful. Like there's a really, you're like, I mean, I look at somebody like Cam and I don't know, maybe Cam is really strong, but I look at Cam, I look at Big T, I look at Gabby, I look at Amber B. I look at these people and I'm like, they're never going to compete with Natalie. Natalie's going to wipe the floor with them no matter what the competition is. So if she sticks with Wes, it doesn't seem like a lot of the guys want to go up against Wes either because he's a bigger, stronger guy. So I would say, good, I've already done this once. I've proven myself. Now let me stick with this really strong guy who's a seasoned veteran. And that's it. Everybody leave us alone. Yeah. And if you don't leave us alone, you're probably going to go home. Yeah,
I mean, that's the big thing is no matter what Natalie's choices, Wes and CT are going to blow this house up next week.
Yeah.
They're going to be coming out swinging. So mad. We saw it on Anissa and Fessy's face. They're like, as soon as TJ announced it was a women's elimination, they were like, we're done.
Yeah.
like our game's just completely shot because both Wes and CT are still in this house.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not going to start next week. You're like 100% confident in this. We're not going to start next week with Natalie picks somebody and the other person goes home.
I don't think so because it doesn't make sense with how long the season is.
How long is the season? I don't know this.
It's like 18, 20 episodes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So because the season's that long, because we did an individual elimination instead of a pair elimination this time, we'll see individual elimination. Sometimes we'll get this odd double elimination, but it'll probably alternate to a man's week next week. So a man will go home next week.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because I think it's a very interesting show. Again, I think there's some corniness that I'm normally driven away from. I think the whole like spies, we're doing agent stuff, and TJ like walking around in his wool coat. I'm like, okay, good for you, dude. But like to me, that stuff is just corny. It's stupid. It doesn't do it for me. I like when it's just you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I do find the strategy here fascinating because I love that the double agents got to see who voted for who. And 23 people voted for Ashley and CT. So now, like you're saying, now initially people might be like, well, Wes and CT, they're going to blow up the house, but they're not going to get along. Wes and CT voted together here for Leo and Gabby. Wes and CT, Natalie, Ashley all voted for Leo and Gabby. The other 23 voted one way. And then there was one person who voted for it was a stray vote. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was an absolute stray bullet. Didn't go for anybody important, whatever. So when Anissa and Fessy go in there and see this, the reason they probably put up Natalie and Wes is because they didn't vote that way. And so therefore, okay, we need to get rid of at least one of these pairs, thinking it's going to be a pair, and it ends up not being a pair. So even though they have so much information, they know so much about what's going on, that it still can be used against them because they tried to use that information to the best of their ability. And it totally seems like it 100% backfired.
Yeah, exactly. And Wes and CT are both very likable guys. Wes can grind people the wrong way sometimes. Not so much in later seasons. He's a much more likable person in the later seasons. But they're people who can, if they're given time, will worm their way in with people. Mm-hmm. They're people, yes, they are terrifying competitors. And having one of them knock the other out is definitely an ideal situation for almost anyone in the season. Mm-hmm. But if either of them wins the next daily and is the one in power, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because if Wes and Natalie stick together and they win the next daily and they're the double agents next episode, they can vote in CT as much as they want. They're going to give them a rookie pair.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Like they're going to make sure that he's got the easier route there.
Exactly.
And it seems like, and I could be wrong because what do I know? But it seems like Cam, Leo, and Gabby, Cam and Leo especially here, way too loud in this episode.
Yeah, like Cam and Leroy were very loud. Joseph was getting loud for some reason, and I don't know why someone like Joseph, who's paired with Big T, who went home last season because she got drunk and cut open her toe. And had to get stitches and everything. So I don't know. Like it's I don't know why you would get loud if that's the pairing you have.
Especially when he's taking a nap at the cocktail party.
Yeah, exactly. Like prime socializing time. One of the most important parts. And like I said, I underestimated the necessity for a social game in the challenge when I started watching it. But it is so necessary because you want to make sure you're going into elimination against someone you can beat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So okay, let's run through these pairs then, because I feel like we've talked a lot about the episode, and I feel like it's only going to get more easier for me to discuss it as we actually move along. It's not going to help now, but let's run through these pairs. So we have Anissa and Fessy. It seems like you think that they could have made the right move had it actually been pair versus pair, but in reality, it's not the right move here because they're kind of screwed. What do you think about them as a pair, though, as a whole?
I think as soon as Fessy gets a chance, he's ditching Anissa.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think they established that too. I think with him saying, I don't want to be with her, I think they completely established that if he has the opportunity, he's going to say, see ya, I'm out of here.
Yeah. And it is important to note that as double agents, they do have the opportunity to go in to get their skull early.
Mhm.
So, like, I think they were probably disappointed to see Ashley and CT as the first two people voted in, because they wanted it to be rookies, because they wanted to be the ones voting in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense, because if it's like Leo and Gabby, Anissa's going to beat Gabby, I would think. And even if Leo went up against Leo's really strong, I think Leo will be really good, but he'll probably lose to Fessy unless it's something that's more agile instead of strength, which this one maybe could have actually worked in Leo's favor, because you got to have insane core muscles if you're going to be in the WWE. So that might have actually worked in his favor. But all that being said, I wrote them in the order kind of that they all kind of broke down. Now, Nani and Kyle, I don't really know them much at all. I know Kyle's got kind of like an Irish accent and a lot of tattoos. Yeah. What do you see them bringing here?
Well, Nani's, I'm just going to flip back to how many seasons everyone's been on. Nani's on her 10th challenge. She's made it to the final.
This is a career for these people. It's insane.
It is. It absolutely is. There are people who just continually go on the challenge, and they just keep coming back. And like I said, they're good TV. Nani has made the finals, has never won. She almost won season 25, but kind of threw a hissy fit during the final, which cost her the 9 minutes she needed to beat the person she lost to.
I love that.
Kyle is on his 6th challenge now. He made the final last season. He was kind of viewed as essentially like your GOAT in the final last season. Came back, performed phenomenal, outperformed Fessy in the final. Wasn't honestly too far behind Bananas, who won last season. Mm-hmm. And Kyle's a steady competitor. He can do really well. It's a solid pairing. It depends. Nani can sometimes get in trouble with if she drinks too much. Mm-hmm. Last season, she threw a cup of hot noodles at Anissa's head.
Nice.
Yeah, so Nani can get very volatile.
Do you get kicked off the show for that, or do the producers like slip you
off the show?
Thank you.
If you like punch someone in the face.
Okay.
And there are people on this season who have gotten kicked off the show for punching people in the face.
And are back on.
CT has done it. Nelson's done it. Yeah. Like, you can get in a physical altercation. You're booted off that season, but you can still come back in later seasons.
Which is hilarious, because like if that happens on like a CBS show, it's like you're done, you're banned. We don't even invite you. Alec Merlino's not invited to the finale. You know, it's just crazy. And then this, it's like, you want to play again?
Yeah, but they don't bring racists back on the show, though.
Well, that's something.
In fact, last season there was one of the contestants started making comments, very racist comments, and they edited them out of the season.
The whole person just edited it.
As soon as they started doing it, they changed the edit for the previous seasons, and they're like, "Yeah, we're cutting the." And they put a disclaimer before every episode saying, "Hey, we condemn this person. We are completely in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and we've edited them out of the season."
Nice, and that's Dean Wynn, right?
Yeah, and they continued that. They kept that title card for the rest of the season after she was eliminated too.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
no, yes, they're okay with physical altercations, but if you get into some social arguments or you do something that disagrees with their values, you're done.
Interesting. A little scary if it's one thing to be racist, another to just not have the same social values. That's a little scary. So well, what is it fascist or commie? It's one or the other, but that's a little scary. Not saying the racist way, but the other way. It's like, Jay doesn't like Honey Nut Cheerios, so Jay has now been banned from our TV show.
Well, I'm sure that won't happen.
I'm
pretty
kidding.
Sure everyone on that show likes Honey Nut Cheerios because they eat it for breakfast enough.
That's a great point. Tori and Corey, they didn't even speak tonight. I know nothing about them. I don't know anything. What do you got for Tori and Corey?
I hate Corey.
Okay.
He is like one of my least favorite people on the challenge. Like I said, he made the final last year, mostly because Nelson sacrificed himself. I don't really think Corey has a chance of winning.
Okay.
I don't know. He seems like the perennial gets really far in the game, but doesn't quite make it type of player.
Mm-hmm.
Tori made the final in her rookie season. She's very strong. It could be a very strong pairing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. The next one, if I was on the challenge, I would want to get my gold skull doing this. Devin and Nicole. Nicole, I find to be very irritating. I don't know if I'm just going to get accustomed to her accent or not, but I find it to be nails on a chalkboard. I also think she's like obnoxiously loud. And when she was trying to help Lolo, like her just yelling, that kind of like reminded me of like just wanting to die. I don't know. I was just awful. But then you have Devin too, who's like, I'm the most sarcastic person. Here we see him with Lolo talking about, breaking down everybody's strengths and weaknesses as we go through. To me, this feels like the weakest pairing out of the entire bunch. Am I wrong, or am I onto something with that?
Well,
okay, Big T and Joseph is the weakest pairing, but this is like another weak one.
Nicole has played in 3 challenges and made the final twice.
Okay, so I'm an idiot. Okay.
Nicole's very strong.
Okay.
And very good at this. Devin, I haven't actually watched Devin, but he has also been in 5 challenges before.
Okay.
So like these are people who know what they're getting into. And they might surprise us. They might come off looking like a very weak pair, but I think they might surprise us.
Nicole, I think it's just Nicole's voice is grating. I'm one of those people who like I can pretty much deal with anything, but somebody with like a really heavy accent, like either New York or like a ditzy like Valley Girl kind of accent, which we don't really have on this season, but anything like that, it just drives me crazy because I'm from New Jersey and I don't have an accent like that. I don't speak like I have marbles in my throat, and so like when I get that accent, that's the stereotype that everybody always makes fun of me for having. And I'm like, no, that's not me. So Nicole's voice to me was just like, oh my God, how is this happening right now? Maybe I'll get used to it. Maybe I'll end up liking her. But she did say you either love me or you hate me. And I was like, I'm definitely leaning left here. I'm definitely leaning over here, but it could change. And Devin kind of reminds me of how I would play, where it's like, I know I'm not very strong, so I need to just like pretend that I'm more knowledgeable socially than I really am. I don't know. I don't feel like he has a chance in hell. I feel like Nicole, like you said, two finals. She's now in her 3rd season. So that's, 100% if she's not winning, but she's at least making finals. I feel like she would have a chance against some of these women, but Devin, I just don't see what challenge is Devin, unless it's literally doing a Sudoku. What is he going to beat Fessy and Nam and I mean, hell, even Leroy and Josh, and like, what is he going to beat them in?
I don't know. Sometimes it could be some of like the heights challenges. Some of the ones that you need to be a little more agile in.
Okay.
Even like endurance-based challenges could be a big thing. So
yeah, I don't know the challenges enough, so I'm just assuming like you look weak. I watch people in the preview; they're showing people running at each other in shoulder pads. I assume that's what every challenge is going to be, which I guess is not true, but that's what I keep comparing everybody to. And I've been tackled by people who are much bigger than me, and it hurts like hell. And like I know I couldn't tackle them back. So
well, I mean that's what happened to Jay last season, right? Jay goes up into an elimination where it's incredibly physical. That he gets a concussion because of it, because he has someone twice his size literally tackle him to the ground.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of Jay, Teresa and Jay, you kind of touched on this a little bit. In a second season, because I don't know this much, but in a second season, do you generally have a much better chance, or is it still like, you're not really there yet?
I have really high hopes for Jay this season.
Okay.
He fits in really well. Like I said, he was on a cast with 13 others of these contestants last season. So he knows them. He's not a rookie, but he's also not one of these seasoned vets. So it doesn't look like he's someone who's going to be targeted. So I think he has a lot of potential to go pretty far this game.
Gotcha. Darrell and Amber B. Amber B looks like she is a fish out of water here.
Do you know who Amber B is?
I know she's on Big Brother. That's all I know.
So she was the recipient of Beast Mode Cowboy's affection on Big Brother.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really creepy.
I'm shocked.
But we didn't really see much of her in Big Brother because she was only edited that way. I think she's possibly one of the weakest contestants on this season. Darrell holds the record for most consecutive challenge wins with 4.
Okay.
So Darrell's season, he hasn't competed since season 30. So we need to kind of get a gauge of like what's happened in that off time. Darrell might be enough to counteract how weak Amber is. But the challenge also isn't putting people on it who just don't stand a chance.
And that's what I was going to ask, because when I look at Amber, I would say Amber's probably the best looking woman on this season. In my opinion, Amber B here she's gorgeous. I think she's a really good looking person. And then I look at somebody like Gabby, who was on Love Island or something like that. And so you look and you're like, okay, what am I missing? Like, do they have no chance? But it's good to hear that the challenge doesn't put people on that have no chance, because where Survivor will put on a Joe Del Campo that we know has a 0% chance of being Survivor. In this, that's not the case, which is good, because when I'm looking at them, I'm like, what is Amber's strength? What is Gabby's strength other than just being really, really good looking? And maybe that gets you further along in the game so they don't put you in challenges. Like, I'm curious to see how this is going to work out. I personally don't know who Amber would be able to be in anything here, unless it is, like you were saying, a little more agile or something along those lines. But if I'm looking at it, I'm saying she is definitely, if she's on her own, one of the weakest. But it's good to know that she ended up pairing up with somebody who's, I just knocked my headphones out of my head, who's incredible at challenges.
Yeah. And that's part of this, is just, I love the casting that MTV does for the challenge. Because they're pulling on all these different reality shows, they're just picking like the best people from these shows. Like Fessy, I found pretty insufferable on Big Brother, but I love Challenge Fessy. So it's just like, you look at these people and it's like, okay, they were okay on their original shows, but they're kind of annoying on their original shows. But you see that it's really them getting to the challenge where they start breaking out. It's like someone like Natalie, who's won Survivor, way more suited for the challenge than she was Survivor.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what I actually find kind of funny, is like, it shows that these people have never really watched Survivor, because Natalie's not good at Survivor. I mean, look, she's good at Survivor. Don't start screaming at me, people. But when you're really looking at it, like, she's one of the most overrated Survivor players of all time. She played on a season with people who were terrible at Survivor. Then she comes back on Winners at War, and yes, she finishes second place, but she did not finish. She was the first person voted out, and then she just did the challenge the entire time. So absolutely, she's better suited for the challenge. That's why her and her sister were really good on The Amazing Race, because you're just running around doing things. Like, you're just competing. And I feel like the one thing that got Natalie in trouble on Survivor is her social game was generally pretty bad. It worked out for her because she's sitting next to Missy and Jacqueline, who nobody liked John and nobody liked Missy. But, you know, when she's on Winners at War, everybody hated her who had to spend time with her on Edge of Extinction. They just were like, I don't know who it was, and it might not even been in reference to it, but they were like, all she had to do was be nice. That's all she had to do. And she just wasn't nice. And I feel like this is a show where you don't really have to be nice. Like, Natalie can be a little bit more of herself, and that's fine. Look, I'm not ripping Natalie, but I think you're 100% right. I think this is the type of show for Natalie where it's like, I can be a little ruthless, because if you can't beat me, you can't beat me. Sucks to be you, because as we watched in Survivor, it's really hard to beat her. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it comes down to, because in the end, your social game does matter to an extent. You need people who are willing to put you into elimination to get one of the gold skulls, or you need to be at least in a position where you can manipulate a vote if you do become the double agent, so that it's a weak person, so you can go in against them. And that is very, very necessary. Natalie, I was a little concerned with Natalie going into the season, because I did know her personality can be very grating. And I know it's going to cause some fantastic conflict this season.
Absolutely.
It's inevitable. Natalie's going to get in a fight with someone, and it's going to be great TV. But in the end, you still have to beat her in a challenge.
Yeah. And even if it's an endurance, that's the thing that's scary with Natalie. She gets to a final. How are you going to beat her? She's good at everything. That's the scary thing. And that's what we saw in Winners at War. Yes, she had a bajillion advantages in that last challenge, but she was able to win that challenge and get back into the game. And it was an endurance type challenge with a puzzle and with all the rows and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, if she didn't have the advantages, she would have ended up losing to Wendell. I'm pretty sure it was Wendell, but still, it's pretty unbelievable like this, that she's already got this gold skull, and now it's just about like, don't mess up. Just lay as low as possible. But yeah, she has way too loud of a personality. She is way too confrontational to just be quiet the entire time. That's just not her. That's just not her. And that's why, like, when people talk about her with Survivor and stuff, it's like she's awesome, but she's not nearly as good as some of the all-time greats who have played the game, because her social game does lack, but it doesn't really matter. It seems like on the challenge, at least not nearly as much with Survivor, because you don't need people to vote for you at the end. Going over to two people who I think has a great storyline and all of that, Leo and Gabby. I think Leo's got a great storyline. I think he's probably my favorite rookie by far. He's flipping. I think he flips Kyle or whatever it is and all of that. But then he starts getting a little lippy at the end, and he's talking about how he could flip people twice the size of CT for a living. And then you have Gabby, who I don't really understand how she's there or what she's doing there. What do you think?
Gabby's a wild card. I think Leo has what it takes. Leo strikes me as the type of rookie who will probably make it to the end, as long as he isn't continuously the target. I was actually kind of surprised that was the rookie pairing they were going after. I mean, I guess the only other rookie pair though was Lolo and Nam, and I guess Michi and Liv too. But
yeah, I don't know anything about Michi and Liv at all.
No, neither do I.
Okay,
it's just I think Leo might be getting targeted early because he's paired with Gabby and they view Gabby as weak, and they're like, in a pair elimination, we should be able to beat the two of them. But I also think they're scared of Leo, because Leo he's that smaller stature. He's agile. He's likable because he's an entertainer for a profession. And he's super strong and he proved that by just hucking Kyle on the ground like he was like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big Leo fan right off the bat here. Yeah. Out of all the people here, I would say the ones I don't know, and obviously I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with Natalie and Jay, so that is what it is. But out of the ones I don't know, the ones who I really like the most are Lolo and Leo for sure. Those are the two I like the most. I like the storyline of Wes and CT. I like Leroy, but I don't like Cam. Cam annoys me. There's just something about Cam. There's something about Cam that's just like, she's a little almost like too in the face, everybody. That's like, I'm the power player here and I am in control and I am good. And it's like, but are you that good, or are you just putting a target firmly in the small of your back because she almost feels like she's the leader of the house.
It did come off that way for sure.
I don't know if it's just from watching Survivor or what, but the leader, I don't like the leaders. I don't like the leaders. And it seemed like whatever Cam said, that's what went. She had some good moments where she was talking about, her upbringing and all of that and how she got to where she is. And I like that. That's awesome. But I don't understand why she became president of the Challenge House.
And like I said, Anissa and Fessy were the ones who put Wes and Natalie in. But everyone knows Cam's the one who spearheaded this, let's get out the winners. And we'll just have to see how that bites her moving forward.
Is she good at challenges or no?
I've never seen her compete in a challenge. She's on her 5th challenge.
Okay.
Josh is an okay partner. So
you haven't gotten anything from Josh yet.
Yeah. I mean, Josh won Big Brother.
Okay.
But I don't know. He didn't impress me on the challenge. So we'll see what happens there. I'd be really worried if I was Cam.
Okay.
And I think she wanted to make these big moves because, first off, it was out of spite. It was because CT was like, nah, I don't want to work with you. But also, it's just so risky to put yourself out as that loud so early in the game.
Well, and that's why I'm worried for Leo too, because it felt like Leo and Cam were the ones who were really going at CT when CT was trying to kind of explain, this is what I'm thinking, this is why I want to do it this way. It seemed like they were the ones who were really going at it, but it does feel like Cam will be an easier target, especially since Cam really is a part of 2 different teams here. Even though she's only on Team Josh, the fact that everybody knows her and Leroy, are getting ready to move in together and do all of that, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And I feel like that's definitely going to end up hurting her. And I feel like she's pushing too hard, too fast. I feel like she's just playing one of those super, super aggressive games. And I actually think Leroy, who in the next pairing I have is Leroy and Casey, I feel like Leroy has a much better chance because Leroy can probably kind of get the redemption arc where once Cam is out, it's kind of like what happened to Natalie in Survivor when Nadia went home. Now you're chilling.
Also, Casey's a beast.
Is she? Okay.
Oh, she made the final last year as a rookie.
Okay.
She was the runner-up last year. She plays women's football
That
professionally.
was her.
Like,
Okay, so that was her.
so, and she's a Big Brother winner. Like, we know she has a social game. We know she has an athletic game. She's a very strong competitor, very likable person, and has all of these connections too, right? She has the Big Brother connection. She has the connections because she was also on last season. So she's a very, very connected person and could go very far in this game.
Okay. Next up, Big T and Joseph. We kind of talked about this one. Joseph, I don't really get why Joseph's out there. To me, it's like a little weird. What Joseph was on America's Got Talent. Was his talent that he rode motocross? Like, I'm confused because that was his story, but then it said America's Got Talent. And I feel like they're not gonna be like, hey man, go do a sick jump for us. Like, what was his thing?
He's a singer/rapper.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah, I don't know what Joseph's going to bring to this. I think he's got a great personality.
Mhm.
I think he's already falling behind in the game, though.
I totally agree. And then the fact that he stuck with Big T, I feel like if Big T and Joseph go out there and I'm the double agent, I'm like, great, let's go. Like, let's battle there.
It's one of those layup partnerships, I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like, and he's big. So you said Big T got drunk and cut her foot, and that's why she had to go home last time. What does she bring to the table here? Because she's another one that I kind of sit there and go, oh, how is she going to compete with Natalie Anderson and anything?
I mean, a lot of the people just have the conviction to complete these challenges. Some of these challenges are just so grueling that you just need to be willing to finish them.
Suffer.
Yeah. But I don't know. Big T went home kind of early with that injury last season. So didn't really prove herself to me last season.
Okay. Lolo and Nam, we already kind of talked about. Lolo, I think, definitely had a little more going on. But what about Nam here?
Nam competed on Ultimate Beastmaster.
Mm-hmm.
That is not an easy show to compete on.
I don't know anything about that show. I just know that this guy looks like he could eat me.
So Ultimate Beastmaster is kind of like American Ninja Warrior dialed up to like 11.
Okay.
It's really intense. And he's an incredible athlete. And the fact that him and Lolo are together is a very scary pairing.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, that's a rookie pairing. Even if you're experts at the game, why would you want to go up against the two of them?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many other rookies you can take out and just like leave them. But again, Lolo's competed on Champs vs. Stars. Lolo knows Wes. Lolo knows CT. Like, she has these connections in the game because she's played with these people before. So she's a rookie, but she's not really a rookie.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And then the two teams that I really feel like I know the least, other than Tori and Corey, Amber M and Nelson. We got a little bit more with Nelson because he was saying he's gonna be like Nelly T, or he needs like a double agent name. But I don't feel like I know Amber M at all. I feel like she was literally just thrown in here.
Yeah. Nelson is in a 7th challenge. He kind of a bland character to me. Like I said, he's been kicked out for like punching people before. He's also been the recipient of like racism before, and it goes everywhere. And last year he really got this big like redemptive arc where he like sacrifices himself so Corey can play in the final. And he's tried to be like painted as a good guy recently. He's just not that interesting to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I forgot it was him and Corey who were talking to each other. So that tells you how much I think they resonate with me. And then Michi and Liv, I don't know what either one of them look like because that's how little they were in this episode.
I don't know what Shipwrecked is, which is what Liv's from. Liv and Big T both played on Shipwrecked. I don't know what that is. It's a British series of some sort.
Is it like Lost?
I think it's closer to Survivor from what I understand, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm trying to load it, and it's probably going to kill my internet, but let me see. So, a UK reality show from 2000 to 2012. It hasn't been on in 8 years.
Yeah.
Two teams competing with each other for new members, with the larger team winning a cash prize at the end. Oh, nice. In the first season was in Ayutaki.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Okay, yeah, I don't know anything about this at all. Okay. Okay. I
Okay,
guess.
yeah. I have no
Okay.
idea what to expect from them.
Okay. I feel like not much based on how little they were in this episode.
Yeah, and again, they're another rookie pairing. So they're going to be a pair that's really targeted early, I think, because now that this going after the winners thing has backfired, I think people are going to reevaluate the strategy. Because one of the big things, CT made a great point in deliberation. If you're making a big move, you better be correct. You have to hit. Because if you don't, it's going to backfire.
Yeah, and I like that because I think we see this all the time though too in like Survivor, where like you get the really crazy boot, and then the next boot will just be the okay, let's just do the safest thing we could possibly do. Like Jessica Lewis goes home, let's just get rid of Zeke. Like let's just do it. That was too insane. Let's just make this easy. And so yeah, I would think like if you're Joseph and Big T or Michi and Liv or something like that, you should feel a little bit more in danger moving on, depending on who becomes double agent now. So if I'm certain, and we'll wrap this up in a second here, but so I'm certain when you compete in these daily challenges or whatever they are, if you win, they have these every episode, and then you're the double agent, and you're going to be the one who gets to throw somebody into the ring.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
It makes the most sense based on the strategy. Yeah. So it looks like you win the daily, you become the double agent, you get to throw someone in the ring or throw yourself into the ring. That's the big thing with being the double agent is you get the power to decide when you're going in.
Yeah, which is cool. Which is cool. I like that. Yeah, because man, especially like somebody like me who's smaller and would fit more into the J. I could beat Jay up. There's no problem. No doubt about that. Somebody tell Jay, get Jay on the J phone. But I could beat Jay up, but you got to make sure that you're going in against somebody that you can compete against unless you're literally the biggest person there. And it's like, I really don't care.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
And
the other thing is they don't know what the challenge is before they put the other pairing in, right? So they see the challenge set up, but they have to just guess what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, this one could have been balance walk across it. It could have been something completely different than using, all of your core strength. It could have been something way different and still been ridiculous. So,
but what we do know is that the eliminations are intense.
Yeah, well, that's what it looked like.
I mean, they tried to make it more intense by adding fire to the top of it for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason.
But the challenge itself is just so difficult. It's a difficult challenge. And
very well. That's what I was going to ask you. How long do you think it would take you to do that?
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
I don't have any core strength. There's no way I would finish that. I get to that hump maybe, and I'm like, okay, I'm done.
How you going to pick your feet up? Yeah, no, I think I could. I think I could be okay at that because I do have like decent core strength. But I look at some of these other more physical ones. Like I have a pretty good pain tolerance, and like I'm not bragging by any means, but I have a pretty good pain tolerance, and like I can deal with that kind of stuff. And I'm stronger pound for pound, if you will. If people will give me that. But like I look at some of those, I'm like, you got Fessy running 30 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour at you, whatever it is, whatever the speed barrier is that he's going to be able to run his 4.740 or whatever. And he's coming at me. I can run at him as fast as I want, but I better move out of the way so he hits his head into a pole. Otherwise, I'm not beating him. Like he's going to put me into the earth and they're going to have to dig me out. It's going to be insane. So it's tough. I would rather have a challenge like this for sure than a beat the crap out of me challenge because I'd want to watch how Jay got a concussion because I would try to do the opposite of whatever Jay did.
Oh, it was hard to avoid that concussion, that challenge. Jay was also macking on Rogan's ex. So Rogan had a personal vendetta out for Jay.
I love that. Oh man. Yeah, no, that's crazy to me. I mean, it's just one of those things like, man, how can you avoid this stuff?
But also with these like confrontational challenges, we usually get narrow spaces in them. We're talking like a hall brawl is like you're in a hallway that's just wide enough for you to run down, and you have to get to the bell on the other side.
Gotcha.
The other person.
Gotcha.
So like there are challenges you definitely don't want to be the smaller person in.
Yeah, no, I would die. That's it for you though. Yeah. Well, I think that was a very informative recap. I think that was a very thorough recap, and I think it'll be good. Next week we will actually and John, I think it's going to be you again. I mean, I'll have to figure out what's going on, but I think it's going to be you. We'll be back next week, and we'll actually be able to do it on Wednesday because I'll be up at my parents' house and they have DVR. I just moved, so I don't have anything set up in my apartment yet. So I had to watch it this morning because I had to watch The Amazing Race live last night. So I'll be able to next week watch The Amazing Race live, the finale, and then watch this after, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. We should also touch on. There are two things I want to touch on. First off, the hilarious moment where CT throws a shoe in Wes's face.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the
and the editing of it. And one of the things I really love about the challenge is the production team.
Mm-hmm.
I love the production team. I love TJ as a host because TJ is not afraid to call people out. In that first challenge, you see Cam there, like trying to switch the wires around, trying to get it right. And TJ's just like, looks like you need to go back and check again.
Yeah. Which I liked because I was like, can she really just stand here and be like, check, 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 check? Like that would have been obnoxious.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you see TJ just laughing his ass off when it comes to Wes getting hit with that shoe in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. TJ's so great. And when he thinks someone is really bad, he's not afraid to call them out in the middle of a challenge.
Yeah.
So TJ's a fantastic host. I love TJ. I love the production team. I love that we actually see the production team interacting with people. We saw it when Big T is making her confessional about being paired with Joseph, and she's like, calls him Jacob.
Yep.
And production's just like, that's not his name.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And production does that type of thing. There have been times where like people are lying about things that have happened on production, and production's like, so what happens if I show you this and just pass them an iPad with like a clip of them doing what they say they're not doing?
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, and that's kind of that aspect of the challenge that I really enjoy. I enjoy what production brings to the challenge.
And again, it's very MTV. You know your audience, you know what you're working with, and you just go for it. And like watching this show, I was like, I'm watching an MTV show right now. Like it felt like I was watching MTV. That's not a bad thing. It's just like it has a very distinct, because like when I was watching Spy Games and all of that, like I gave Spy Games a shot, at least watch the first episode, and I was watching, I'm like, this doesn't feel like it belongs anywhere. Like it's on Bravo. Who cares? Why is this on Bravo? Like this should be on something. This feels like, and obviously that's why it's in its 36th season, but I was like, yeah, I'm watching an MTV show and I'm enjoying this. Like this is fun to watch. And I think it's going to be fun to break down week after week. I don't know why it has to be 18 weeks, but thanks for ruining my life, John. I appreciate that. But no, this was really good. I'm glad that I think a couple of the patrons were pushing for it. So all the patrons who were pushing for it will probably have to make an appearance at some point or another. But you got in here first because I was like, good, he's on the West Coast. We'll do this really late. And then instead you're doing it at like 10 a.m. for you. So
it's okay.
Anyway, this was really fun. We will be back again next week. It will be John, and then we'll figure out what we're doing after that because I need some stability in my life, man. It has been a hell of a month. That is for sure. So back again next week. And then we'll get going from there. If you're not a patron, become a patron, patreon.com/Survivor Specialist. You get to get in our Facebook group. We do Q&As. We do things like that. So you can ask us questions, and it could be about the challenge. It could be about Australian Survivor, things that I'm watching or Alexa's watching. You don't know. It's really fun. Our patrons have all become friends, and they come to us with ideas, and it's good. It's really good. It's been a really fun thing. And we'll be doing Alexa and I will be doing the Amazing Race finale next week. And that's really it. I mean, thankfully, that's really all that's on the docket. Alexa's also doing Australian Survivor, the real Australian Survivor, like at season 1. I guess it's season 2 now, but whatever they call it. She's doing the real one with McKenna Feeney, another one of our patrons. So become a patron. It's a lot of fun. And if not, at least subscribe. If you're a challenge fan who's just kind of discovering us, tell people. If you're a Survivor fan who likes the challenge and is surprised to be hearing us talking about it, tell people about it. Tell people about it. Let them know. It would be great to be able to get a lot of views on this type of thing and get a lot of people into the challenge, because this might be the last thing we have to do before Survivor comes back on the air, if all goes well in the world. Okay, which hasn't happened in the last 9 months. So it's got to start happening at some point, right? Things have to get better. They can't get much worse. John, thank you so much for being on here, and I will see everybody later.